Hi, and welcome to another video. I'm Luis Alvarado, and today we'll be talking about creating a business email. I've gotten a lot of questions in regards to this, and typically, most business owners actually still it's 2021, and they still use info at something or admin at something, and so on. So let's do a brief understanding on what a email addresses and the recommendations that I've gathered over several years or a decade, probably, in regards to creating a correct business email that does not end up in spam. It's not targeted as spam. It's easy for an email campaign to actually validate that email address and actually promote and defend the email. Basically, avoiding a lot of issues that you can get when doing email campaigns or when sending an email to a client or a member of a site and suddenly they don't get it. Their spam manager grabs your email for some reason or another. Okay, so if you follow these steps, you'll be able to communicate efficiently with your clients and there won't be any weird issues happening in regards to email campaigns, business, email management software, etc. So remember, valid email address has the typical four parts. Okay, you got the recipient name, which is who owns the basically the email, who represents that email. The at symbol, so to basically say that's an email. The domain name, the top level domain name. So you can imagine, chocolate.com, um, computers.net, something like that. All four are required. You can, like, if you miss one or the other one, basically it fails. Okay, the email systems will simply void that email and it won't arrive correctly to the person that you're sending it to. Okay, a recipient name typically is either your name, like in my case, it could be Luis Alvarado, a business sector or department. It could be, for example, I don't know, uh, software at IBM.com or something along those lines. Sales at Ubuntu.com or something like that. A role or position, and I'll be talking about this later on because a lot of people actually put their position in their email when they're working in a company, and that's bad. There's a reason for that. Okay, this is typically that's a email that don't doesn't have a really long life on it. Or an mailing list. Okay, a mailing list is basically it's very old and it's how the beginnings of email campaigns started. Okay, so the recipient could be any of those and more. There are some recommendations in regards to the recipient name, but here I basically mention everything summarized. So there are many symbols that are supported. Everybody knows that. You can use several symbols like numbers and other special symbols on a standard email name. But when you're sending that email to somebody that works in a company, you don't know how their email servers are handled, filtered, programmed, etc., to validate incoming email. So let's say that you send an email and that particular client or that particular person doesn't receive it for some reason. Obviously, they're not techie, they won't know, but when you start digging up, you find out that, for example, they don't support emails that have a dash or an underscore or a number or uppercase letters or something. Okay, somebody put a validation there that although it's weird, it's the issue that's creating that problem. Maybe for security reasons they did it, maybe who knows. Okay, but to avoid or basically to make sure that your email is universally acceptable, these are my recommendations. Okay, don't use numbers, underscores, dashes, uppercase letters. And by the way, uppercase letters typically are it's the same thing as lowercase. So if I were to do my email like this, okay, this would be actually the same thing as this. It will arrive at the same place. But I'm I'm telling you to avoid uppercase because sometimes these email servers will detect an uppercase letter and they're like, nope, and they'll deny the whole thing. And your client won't get that information, or it's not your fault, it's not their fault, it's just the middleman, the servers that handle that won't allow emails like that. Okay. Um, in regards to the actual name that you put in your email, the recipient part, here are the typical ones that I've seen, and you need to not just stop but change them fast. It's 2021, it's not 1991. Okay? Info at, still people using that. Admin, administrator, office, webmaster, account and accounts, error, alert, float, drive, greetings, greet, spoil, and oh my god, I've seen this. No reply, sample, and do not reply. Why would you send me an email when you don't want to get a reply? They said, I understand if it's a bot or something like that, okay? But I've seen humans actually use this too, okay? Stop it. These are very general emails. You need to stop this. You need to make more friendly ones, okay? If you still want to do or use general ones like that, you still have, for example, support at the name of the company, staff at the name of the company. But why am I saying these are very general ones? Because this will eventually end up here. They are used for spam, not as much as basically this sort of emails here, but they will end up in a couple of years in this group. Okay, so if you still want to use, I would recommend just this too. But on top of that, I would actually say stop it. Try to use something else. Okay. Um, if your email ends in basically this type of email addresses, if you're from Russia, I'm sorry, but this is gonna sound really bad. You can't use this if you're doing email campaign, international email campaign. It gets targeted as spam a lot. It's not your fault. It's just that the spam bots and everything actually use this a lot, like a lot. If you're from Russia and China and India too, by the way, you're gonna get a lot of problems. So it's better if you actually have a business, online business address, like a real domain name there instead of the actual country one, to avoid some issues. Okay. This number one is typically when you get an email from, I don't know, something like this at 123.com or .net. That's what I mean about this one. So if you just by chance your domain name has numbers inside of it, then you know what I mean when I say that you're basically ending up in the spam folder of most of your clients. Yeah. Spam is the main one there, but this type of emails are actually used a lot. The combination between these ones and the top domains are actually used a lot for phishing, to grab your credit card information, to ask for some money related email. Okay, malware, to install some software there on your computer, or even spoofing. Spoofing means that I create a fake email. Like I don't know if you've received an email from maybe gmail.g suite, something gmail.com or something like that. And then suddenly someone wants to spoof it a little bit, and they do something like this, and you don't notice that. Okay, and it looks the same, everything is the same, but you don't notice that tiny little change there, and you end up giving them your credit card information and all that. Spoofing is also a way of uh, there's something called the middleman attack, which a lot of companies actually have systems against that, but it's basically it grabs the information that you sent to this to a specific address and it just process that, and then suddenly somebody's using your credit card information or bank account information or something. So you got to make sure that the email addresses that you use and you receive are valid, have some sense into their name. Um, a lot of people don't know also in regards to Gmail. They don't know that, for example, this email. This is my email. Okay, this email and this email and this email are all the same. They will all end up on the same place. Okay, so on Gmail, dots are not counted towards the actual name of the email. So if you have this here, it will be the same as doing this. So every time somebody sends me a Gmail address, I always remove the dots if they have some. It's the same thing. They will get redirected towards the original one, which is the one without the dots. Okay. Um, some people do it because it's better to read. Okay. It's actually annoying when you need to type in the address. And the other part is the plus sign. So some people don't know about the plus sign. So let's say that I want to register for a newsletter. Yeah, a newsletter. And I'm registering on your site. And your site is called, I don't know, chocolate chip. I'm hungry, basically. Chocolatechip.com. Okay? And your newsletter, um, asks for my email and I put it there. Okay, and what I do is the following. I put that plus, and I do, this is just an example. Just put in this, chocolate chip news. I do this. This will tell Gmail, okay, Gmail, send whatever newsletters come from here to my email, which is this one, but add the plus chocolate chip news to the email. What's this used for? What's the usefulness for this? It is for you to be able to create on Gmail labels, groups, for you to be able to group whatever emails come from chocolate chip in a specific folder that you want to handle. You want to separate them from the rest of the pack that you get in your main folder. So you could do something like this, and then you get all your news there. If you're into tech news, then if you subscribe to a specific site, you can do techie news or something like that. You put a label there, and also you don't have to just use one. You could put tech news about more chocolate. I have no idea. So you could do something like that and then create a label where it looks for this and actually sends it to a specific folder. Okay, that it's useful for that. So when you join a newsletter, you can do some stuff like that. Okay, or if if you subscribe to CNN, you could do CNN, something like that, or CNN News, or a specific one, CNN News USA or Dash USA or whatever. Okay, you can play around with that one, but that's what the plus sign is for. It validates the email as your original one, but you still get to keep this part to filter it out later on in your Gmail or G Suite account. So that's a lot of people don't know about the dots. That they're basically the same thing. Gmail processes that without the dots, but they also don't know about the plus sign. So I'm guessing you're learning a lot of things on this video. Company position in email. Like I said, some people put their company position, like I don't know, some position in a company. The thing about that, what happens if you get promoted? Now you don't have that position. So now they have to create all this whole thing with a new email with that, and maybe migrate a whole bunch of emails that got pending, or you didn't reply on time, or they were being processed for later on. So try to avoid, or please avoid, putting the position that you have, like John, CEO at I don't know, blah 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 at the name of the company.com. Instead of doing that, put it in the signature, in the email signature, because with that if you get promoted or fired or demoted or you turn into a monster or something, you can still just change the signature and you're done. You still stay as a monster, but you don't have to change your email. So basically, monster at business.com or something like that. So that's why I was suggesting not to use the position in the email. Okay. In regards to emails, so on email marketing services, where we're talking Salesforce, SendGrid, SendBlue, MailChimp, Soho, I can keep on going because there's like 20, 30, 40 out there. Um, they do a couple of things when they're validating email. Okay. Before I get to that part, which is this one, some people ask me, how do they know when somebody opened the email, clicked on a link, etc., etc. For the opening part, they actually use a very simple technique called a pixel. It's actually called a pixel because it is a pixel. So it's like a little, uh, let's say, an image that's 1 pixel in size. And when you open the link, it actually calls the server because it needs to load that image for the email, and then it knows exactly who opened the email, when they opened the email, because each email will have a different pixel when you send an email campaign. So it's a very very old technique that works. It looks like magic, but it's actually just a pixel. And they also, on some of these platforms, like MailChimp, I believe, they validate when you import the contacts. Why? Because you don't want to send a lot of, basically, you don't want to send an email campaign to a blacklisted group of emails because you'll end up also in that list. It'll look fishy. It looks like those are not your real members and you just imported a whole bunch of people that you bought from somewhere else. So they validate the imported contacts to make sure that those are real emails and they won't bounce basically when you send something to them. Okay. But in regards to the email marketing services, on the Facebook group, somebody on the Brain Directories Help Facebook group, somebody asked about how do email marketing services. I think the question was about does it protect you or validate that you're not going to be spam. So in the last, I would say, 20 years, email marketing services have learned a lot and have actually automated some of the things that are needed to make sure that you, as a customer, you're not considered spam for your clients. So like I say here, all email platforms have several types of check. Sometimes they actually exaggerate, like 7 things that you gotta do there to make sure an email used as a recipient in an email campaign is valid, basically not spam. Okay. The main 3 methods, the typical 3 methods that you find in SendGrid, MailChimp, and a whole bunch of others. Okay. By the way, if you do not find these methods in there, it, either they validated you somewhere else or they don't do it and you might end up in spam if a lot of people actually mark you as spam easily. Okay. So for the platforms that actually validate you, and I can confirm that at least um, SendGrid, MailChimp, Soho, Salesforce, all this, they actually validate it. So first they check if the domain is owned by you, and also if it has an SSL. If you don't have an SSL, I suggest you actually put an SSL there. You're gonna create a lot of issues in regard to Google services, payment methods, email campaigns, etc. So the domain needs to have an SSL. 2, they validate the email through a DNS record check and things that you need to put in the DNS. So you should be using email that is part of the domain. Like if my site is the developer.club and I'm gonna be doing an email campaign, it better come from the developer.club. Like I can put my Gmail account there. Okay, it might work, but it can also be targeted as spam easily. So it needs to be part of the domain to not be considered or thought as spam email. And like I said before, you can use info, admin, office, and the rest of the ones that I mentioned above. And the email should be very clear. Like in my case, this is one of my emails, okay, from Ubuntu. And lastly, because this is an email marketing service, this option is a required field in all email campaigns. The unsubscribe options. Platforms like SendGrid will not allow you to execute an email campaign, will not allow you to send an email campaign if you do not have the unsubscribe option enabled there, with the unsubscribe group attached to that and with the unsubscribe button in the email template. So for the people that work in SendGrid, you know what I'm talking about. You got the unsubscribe group, unsubscribe button there, and the list. Everything needs to be done before you send the email, before you start sending the email campaign. If this is not sent, several of the email platforms will not allow you to send the email campaign. What this means is that, for example, when you start the email campaign, let's assume that the email marketing service allows you to send an email without the unsubscribe option. Many, like Gmail, will immediately target this as spam because they'll check the email before the user gets it, and they'll see, okay, if you're doing this as a campaign, where's the unsubscribe option? You don't have it. I'll assume that you're a spam automatically. It won't ask the user for this. It will automatically send it to the spam folder. All of this is done before you do the email campaign. All this validation and basically it's the settings that you do when you start an email campaign. After that, the email platform starts checking when you start doing email campaigns. It starts checking how many have marked you as spam. This is done typically on all email campaigns that you do, but the first one is the most important one because it's the first time that the platform, the email platform, is gathering information about you. Okay, so if I don't know, 10% actually mark you as spam, then you might get into trouble. Okay, let's assume that that 10% is from a list of 1 million members. So 10% is a lot. How many have unsubscribed? So if way too many people are actually unsubscribed from your list, it means that they never actually subscribed to it. Get it? It means that somebody bought that list and way too many people unsubscribe to it. And what happens with this is the following. For the people that didn't unsubscribe, that they did not unsubscribe, they will start getting this instead of their like main inbox, it will end up in spam automatically. Because, for example, in the case of Google, Gmail, we'll see that okay, the last 100 Gmail users that got an email from this email address, they said that they actually unsubscribed to it. So we're gonna now assume that this is spam, or the following 1,000, 2,000, etc. members that are supposed to get this email campaign, we're gonna put that in the spam folder because we believe that if that many people actually unsubscribe, it's because the rest never actually subscribed to it, which is it. It's a logical way of thinking. Okay, so if you are one of those that actually has a email list and those people don't know about you and all that, this might happen to you. That's why you want to validate all this, and you also want to do small email campaigns. Okay, you don't want to do a huge one and then get marked like that. Um, how engaging are the members? For example, you send 1 million emails and only one person opens it. That's also fishy. You start the email. Basically the email platforms actually have multiple ways of trying to create trust with you or making sure that you're spam and just throwing you basically in the spam black box there. So if you send 1 million emails and only one person opens it, there's something weird. If you send 1 million emails and 5%, 10% say that spam, that's a lot of people saying that it's spam. So you'll be considered spam. If you send 1 million emails and a lot of people actually unsubscribe, the the rest of the people that are supposed to get the email that will land on the spam folder, or worse, the email campaign can stop, and then they'll need to manually check who you are and everything else in regards to the company, in regards to, because something is happening and um it's not correct. Okay, there's something fishy going on with the way that you're doing it. Okay. Um, Lastly, you got A/B testing. Let's say that everything went smooth. You're doing excellent email campaigns. You've been doing them for several months now. Everybody's happy, blah blah blah, and now you want to start testing people, their behavior, um, with email campaigns. So the basic one, the very basic one, they give you this in the university. Basically, I'm a system engineer, so there's like very in methodologies of process and all that. That's the super basic. A/B testing is basically you send two versions of almost the same thing and you see how people react to it. Okay, you got an A version and a B version. A/B test, by the way, just comes from high school, college, when you got a math test and you got the math test A, and your friend next to you got the B version, and somebody else got the C version, and somebody else got the D version, so nobody could copy each other. That's old school. But on the A/B test, you actually test a single change between two types of email campaigns. It could be the wording, it could be the color, it could be a button and the color for it, or the words for it, or something along the lines of how you address your customers. And you check which one gets open faster, more. They do a follow through. They actually go to the site, etc., etc., etc. And there's something for those tests. You have like the winning or the champion test, and you got the follow up or challenger test. So the winning or champion one is whichever actually got the most views, the most opened emails, etc. So it could be A, it could be B. But after you do that, if you want to do a follow up test, another A/B test based on whichever one, then that's a follow up or challenger test. So the challenger would be another A or B test against the winning one to see how your customers react to that one. Okay. A variation of A/B is a multivariate test, which is basically instead of changing a single one, you actually change multiple ones. In this case, it's because you have a lot of people and you have a lot, what's called a population, testing population, and you are able to a certain degree, you're able to test huge populations with multiple emails through a period of time and see how each of those variables in the multivariate tests behaves and how they either complement or diminish each other in those email campaigns. So this is it's typically using huge populations, but this is a way for you to check how multiple variants of the test put together can actually enhance the basically the conversion rate. That's what you're trying to do here. The conversion rate of people opening the email and going to your site and all that. So I hope that this creating a business email video has been helpful. At least you learned something over this, and I hope you actually follow through in regards to the way that the email needs to be done. It needs to be part of the company that you're doing, and just following through all these steps, you'll lower the amount or the chance that you'll end up as spam, or you'll have issues with the email campaigns, or people won't be able to reply to you in the future. So with that said, think positive. Big hugs to all.